Good morning, everyone. We're so excited to be joining you for the last morning book buzz of 2024. I can't believe it. Cheers to everyone with our special mugs who has joined us
Cheers.
over the last year and over the last 5 years now. I can't believe it, but we're so thankful for all of you. We're thankful for great books. And we figured we'd kick off this episode saying that we're thankful for a few books in particular, just to let you in on a secret of what we're up to lately. And 5 years, yay, thank you. We really are truly so grateful for all of you. And I'm a little embarrassed by my pick because it's not really my first cookbook, but I am really thankful for this book. In case you missed it, it came out in 2020. I think it's a great selection for library shelves. My kids are just showing a little more interest now in the kitchen and pushing buttons. If we're making a smoothie, they want to push the smoother or the toaster button. And they're learning about bread in school and how it rises. And I just find this such a delight to sort of break it down in really fun, easy ways with recipes that my kids actually like and that I do too. And so this has just been such a fun way to bond. And especially as we go into the holiday time, I'm really excited to dive in a little bit more and find ways to connect with my kids in the kitchen. So my thankful read this time of year right now is my first cookbook from America's Test Kitchen.
Amazing. I love it. And my book that I picked is also a cookbook, maybe a little bit different from Jen's, but I'm really excited to read Martha Stewart's 100th book, Martha the Cookbook. If any of you watched her documentary on Netflix recently, it was absolutely incredible. And it really got me excited to dive into this book, read some of her recipes. It actually just came out yesterday. So I'm super excited for this. I think it's going to be perfect for the holiday season, whether you're cooking for people, whether you're hosting, or whether you're just looking to give a great gift. So yeah, I like that.
Wow. Is this your first cookbook, Kate? No, you're a pro.
But they do tend to collect dust on my bookshelf, so maybe I do need my first cookbook too.
Speaking of professional cooking, my husband is actually a chef, so I don't do a whole lot of cooking in our household. So I've chosen a book club pick as the book that I'm most thankful for. I actually just finished All the Colors of the Dark, which makes me super late to the game for one of the biggest, buzziest book club picks of the year. But oh my gosh, sweeping, epic, does not even cover it. I cannot believe how much I loved this book, and I am so, so thankful that we have Chris Whitaker on our list because it truly was amazing and completely worth all the hype it's deserved.
That's so wonderful. I feel like it was just National Library Week where he was sharing a video with us and we were so excited for his book to come out, and now everybody's just loving it. I'm so glad.
I love that.
It has legs for sure.
And thanks to all of you. Definitely, I see Kelly is talking about Bake Club. Any books that you're reading and that you're thankful for, we want to hear all about them. So put them in the comments. We read them all. We swear we find such joy in connecting with all of you. So definitely tell us what you're reading. And I realized, I don't know if I introduced myself, but my name is Jennifer.
Oh, we're just too excited. We got right in. I'm Kate.
And I'm Rachel. Hi, everyone.
And we wanted to take a quick moment, whether or not you're familiar with the formats, we want to make sure we don't leave anyone out. So here's the deal. When we show you all of the wonderful books that we're presenting, we do have a key just so you know what to look for in what format. So HC is hardcover, TR is trade paperback, LP is large print, ebook is electronic book. The orange E circle is telling you that an eGalley is available, so you can go ahead and request it and start reading right away as soon as you hear us talk about it. And I know you're going to get so excited, so you're going to want to look for those circles and dive right in. And then DN is audio download and CD is compact disc. And we do send out all of this information after the show. This is our season finale, everyone. So look for that email. And if you have any questions, hopefully you'll find the answers there, or you could always reach out to us and we'd be happy to help you find the answer.
Okay, so we're going to get into a couple of fun events before we get started on the books. Coming up is our Penguin Random House Editors Picks Spring and Summer webinar. So please join us for an exciting insider publishing discussion with some of the top editors in the industry, including a list of must-reads for spring and summer 2025. You can register at the tiny URL at the bottom of the slide here. And again, like Jen mentioned, All of these links will be sent out and available to you after the presentation, so you don't have to worry about writing anything down. But please join us tomorrow.
Yes, I was going to say this happens tomorrow, so don't forget,
Yes.
but we will remind you.
Yes.
All right. Also happening tomorrow is our library con, or LJ and SLJ's Library Con Live. Be sure to join us for some great events focusing on genre fiction, horror, sci-fi, fantasy, graphic novel, and more. And we also will have a closing keynote with David F. Walker and Marcus Kwame Anderson, the authors and illustrators of Big Jim and the White Boy. So you might have to divide your time between the editors panel and LibraryCon, but be sure to hit both. They'll both have some great content for you all.
And definitely wear a costume if you're going to any con, everyone.
Please.
I think that's a rule. These were just on the desk. This was not planned. I just have a lot of things that show up on my desk. I have no costume for this slide, but lots of excitement. If you're not familiar with our book and author festival that happens twice a year, the last one was in spring. I can't believe it's almost winter, but mark your calendars for December 10th. It's a Tuesday, and we are putting together so many fun and exciting panels with so many fantastic authors, some of whom you'll hear about their books today, and then you're going to want to hear even more about them. So you're going to want to sign up for this. And because you are all in this session, you will be the first to know. We're revealing to you right now, our keynote speaker is, drumroll please, Carl Hyacin.
Wow.
So we're so thrilled that Carl will be kicking off this festival with a fantastic keynote. We love him so much and all of his humorous and fantastic stories and books. And he's just such a delight and such a wonderful, I know, favorite of all of your patrons. And so Carl will be kicking off the festival. And we also have so many other fantastic authors who will be in attendance. So we will let you know as we go through this list today about more of them. Also, I can tell you Martha Hall Kelly will be there. So many favorites. So thank you for being the first to hear about our big reveal, and look for more emails this week where we reveal even more authors who will be joining us. So December 10th, be there.
And just wanted to give a quick shout out to browse our spring 2025 catalogs. We debuted these at Day of Dialogue a few weeks ago, but if you haven't checked them out yet, please do. They have the hottest titles from all of our greatest genres: mysteries, thrillers, book club picks, horror. So make sure you check out the tiny URL on the screen, or you can just go to our website to view them and start browsing your next favorite spring 2025 read. All right.
Okay, we're kicking it off. I think I'm having a camera difficulty. Let's see if I could get this to work again. Nothing like live.
We can hear you, just in case.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's good news. Okay, well, I'm going to keep moving and I'm going to work on the camera, but we're so thrilled to kick this off with some buzzy debuts. And this first one just makes me emotional. Even the first time I heard about it, it's called This Is a Love Story. It's by Jessica Sofer, who will be appearing on a book club reads panel at our festival on December 10th. And this just makes you really think about life and place and the meanings of our relationships, but also where they take place in our lives. And in this case, as you can maybe tell from the cover, it's Central Park. For 50 years, Abe and Jane have been coming to Central Park as starry-eyed lovers, as frustrated and exhausted parents, as artists watching their careers take flight. They came alone when they needed to get away from each other, and together when they had something important to discuss. The park has been their witness for half a century of love until now. Jane is dying and Abe is recounting their life together as a way of keeping them going. This is such a beautiful book told from different points of view, and the constant is the park and the love and all of the things that we experience in life that are connected to place and to humanity. And it's just such a beautiful image to New York City, to romance, to loss. And this really captures deep truths about life and marriage. And I think it's going to be a phenomenal book club pick and just a phenomenal read. And I can't wait to hear more from this author at the festival. It's already getting phenomenal reviews. Ann Napolitano, the author of Hello Beautiful, says, written with delicate and beautiful brushstrokes, this is a love story of a long marriage, a love story of Central Park, a story of how hard life can be and how the hard leaves its mark, but the love does too. Every once in a while, I read a novel and think, what a gift. this is one of those books. So I'm so happy to gift the knowledge of this book to all of you. I hope you add it to your lists, and I just think you're going to be hearing a lot about this beautiful, intimate celebration of love and art and the sacrifices that we make for both.
All right. It sounds amazing. And I apologize, everyone. I'm getting over a cold, so I will try not to sound too gross for you. Excuse me one.
Thank goodness for those mugs.
Live TV, everyone. Okay, next up we have Deep Cuts, and this is an incredibly buzzy debut that everyone is talking about. It's a love story about two people pulled apart by the same force that draws them together, which is music. So, it's a Friday night in a campus bar in Berkeley, fall of 2000, and Percy Marks is pontificating about music again. Hall & Oates is on the jukebox, and Percy, who has no talent for music, just lots of opinions about it, can't stop herself from overanalyzing the song, indulging what she knows to be her most annoying habit. But something is different tonight. The guy beside her at the bar, fellow student Joe Morrow, is a songwriter, and he could listen to Percy talk all night. Joe asks Percy for feedback on one of his songs, and the results kick off a partnership that will span years, ignite new passions in them both, and set Joe on a path to indie rock stardom. But it also bruises Joe's ego and traps Percy in a role that she resents. How long can Percy ignore the roars of her heart and of her own unique talent to protect their thrilling collaboration? Moving from Brooklyn bars to San Francisco dance floors, Deep Cuts examines the nature of talent, obsession, belonging, and above all, our need to be heard. This debut is perfect for fans of deep dives into the music scene, whether fictional or based on true life. Readers of narratives like Daisy Jones and the Six and High Fidelity will love this book. And as Jen mentioned, Holly will be at our Winter Festival, so don't miss out on the chance to hear this debut author speak.
Amazing. I'm so excited for Deep Cuts. It looks
Me
like it's going to
too.
be a wonderful debut. All right, next up, I have Fundamentally. So we follow Dr. Nadia Amin, who recently published an article on the possibility of rehabilitating ISIS brides when the United Nations comes calling, offering her an opportunity to lead a de-radicalization program for ISIS-affiliated women held in Iraqi refugee camps. Looking for a way out of London after a painful, unexpected breakup, Nadia leaps at the chance. Once at the camp, Nadia meets Sarah, one of the younger refugees, whose accent immediately gives her away as a fellow East Londoner. From their first interaction, Nadia feels inexplicably drawn to her, despite Sarah's kind of abrasive, harsh exterior. She leaves the camp determined to get Sarah home. This is a triumph of dark humor. It sounds maybe like a dark topic, but there is some bite, there is some fun woven into this, and it asks really bold questions, which are like, who can tell someone what to believe, and how do you save someone who doesn't necessarily want to be saved? The author of this, Dr. Nusabaya Yunus, is actually a peace-building practitioner and a globally recognized expert on contemporary Iraq. So this is an expert writing on a topic with some bite, with some humor, and with a lot of depth.
Okay. Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
Apologies for
you,
the
Jen.
technical. I'm working on it. But next up, this title alone just makes me laugh. All the Other Mothers Hate Me is by Sarah Harmon, who will also be appearing at our Book and Author Festival. And this is for fans of Fleabag, of A Simple Favor, Bad Moms, and readers of dark comedies, especially fans of Sharon Horgan, of whom I am a huge fan. I loved the show Bad Sisters, and anything that captures that kind of comedy and energy is I'm all in. So this is about a woman named Florence Grimes. She's a 31-year-old party girl who always takes the easy way out. She's single, broke, and unfulfilled after the humiliating end to her girl band career. And she has only one reason to get out of bed each day, her 10-year-old son, Dylan. But then Alfie Risby, her son's bully and the heir to a vast frozen food empire, mysteriously vanishes during a class trip, and Dylan becomes the prime suspect. Florence, for once, is faced with a task she can't quit. She's got to find Alfie and clear her son's name or risk losing Dylan forever. So this is a wonderful combination, I think, to that voice that speaks deeply to all moms who hope that all the other mothers don't hate you. That kind of energy of fitting in, of being part of a community, but also this dark mystery that involves the kids. And it's great for fans of like First Lie Wins, people who love those thrillers that are stylish and hilarious with these great plot points. And it also has an unforgettable finale. This is just going to cater to such a wide readership at your libraries that really kind of turns the traditional domestic thriller on its head and has these very funny, complex characters with the motherhood narrative woven through. So I just love the combination of all those things in one mystery. And I think it's going to be a really fun read.
Okay, and up next we have some moving memoirs, and I'll kick us off with Memorial Days. This is a heart-rending and beautiful memoir of sudden loss and a journey toward peace from the best-selling Pulitzer Prize-winning author of Horse. Many cultural and religious traditions expect those who are grieving to step away from the world. In contemporary life, we are more often met with red tape and to-do lists. This is exactly what happened to Geraldine Brooks when her partner of more than 3 decades, Tony Horwitz, just 60 years old and, to her knowledge, vigorous and healthy, collapsed and died on a Washington, D.C. sidewalk. After spending their early years together in conflict zones as foreign correspondents, Geraldine and Tony settled down to raise 2 boys on Martha's Vineyard. The life they built was one of meaningful work, good humor, and tenderness, as they spent their days writing and their evenings cooking family dinners or watching the sunset with friends at the beach. But all of this ended abruptly when, on Memorial Day 2019, Geraldine received the phone call we all dread. We all dread. The demands were immediate and many. Without space to grieve, the sudden loss became a yawning gulf. 3 years later, she booked a flight to a remote island off the coast of Australia with the intention of finally giving herself the time to mourn. In a shack on a pristine, rugged coast, she often went days without seeing another person. And there, she pondered the various ways in which cultures grieve and what rituals of her own might help to rebuild a life around the void of Tony's death. A spare and profoundly moving memoir that joins the classics of the genre, Memorial Days is a portrait of a larger-than-life man and a timeless love between souls that exquisitely captures the joy, agony, and mystery of life. This is perfect for readers of best-selling grief memoirs like The Year of Magical Thinking and Crying in H Mart.
Beautiful. All right, next up, I have Do Not Cry When I Die. This is the story of one of the oldest living Holocaust survivors and her recount of her family's imprisonment at Auschwitz and Bergen-Belsen in a moving memoir of love, loss, courage, and hope. So, when German soldiers invaded Poland in September 1939, it began a 6-year journey for then 10-year-old Renee Salt and her mother Sala. Until their liberation in 1945, Renee and Sala were imprisoned in ghettos and concentration camps, including Auschwitz and Bergen-Belsen. The only light in the darkness and brutality for Renee was the unwavering grasp of her mother's hand in hers, enduring against all odds. Do Not Cry When I Die is an incredibly moving and deeply crucial book that tells the story of one of the oldest concentration camp survivors and the mother's love that saved her life. And then next, I also have Raising Hair by Chloe Dalton. So in February of 2021, Chloe Dalton stumbled upon a newborn hare that had been chased by a dog. Through trial and error, she learns to feed and care for the hare with every intention of returning it to the wilderness. Instead, it becomes her constant companion, wandering the fields and woods at night and returning to Dalton's house by day. Though Dalton feared that the hare would be preyed upon by other animals and even people, she never tried to restrict it to the house. Each time the hare leaves, Chloe knows she may never see it again, yet she also understands that to confine it would be its own kind of death. Raising Hair chronicles their journey together, and we witness firsthand the joy at this extraordinary relationship between human and animal, which serves as a reminder that the best things and the most beautiful experiences arise when we least expect them.
Okay, we're going to switch gears and we're going to move into something fun and show you guys some fake dating and some real romance, starting with the fake out. An NHL staffer gets revenge on her ex by fake dating his rival teammate, but soon discovers the very real feelings in this fiery hockey romance from the viral TikTok author of Behind the Net. The best way for Hazel Hartley, physiotherapist for the Vancouver Storm hockey team, to get back at her horrible ex, fake date his new roommate, of course, Rory Miller, her ex's rival, the top scorer in the league, and the arrogant, flirtatious hockey player she tutored in high school. Faking it with Rory is fun and addictive, though, and beneath the bad boy swagger, Rory's sweet, funny, and protective. He teaches Hazel to skate and spends way too much money on her. He sleeps in her bed and convinces her to break her just one-time hookup rule. He teases her with a nickname and tells her his secrets. Hockey players are only as faithful as their options, but after seeing the other side of Rory, she's starting to trust this one. It's all for show, but when Rory kisses her like it's real, Hazel starts to wonder, was he ever faking it to begin with? The Fake Out is perfect for the 680 million viewers of the hockey romance hashtag on TikTok, for fans of Stephanie Archer's self-published novels, and for readers who enjoy lots of spice in their romance.
Amazing. So let's bring it from Canada to Regency era England for a groundbreaking trans Regency romance that's kind of like a queer Bridgerton. So we follow the notoriously eclectic Lord Christopher Eden. He is a man of unusual make and is even more unusual in his habits. He likes to live a very quiet life, surrounded by just a few confidants. But Christopher's pleasant, if occasionally lonely life is upended when he received words from his lawyers that, according to his late father's will, he must find a wife by the end of the season if he intends to keep his family's fortune and the Eden estate. Christopher cannot imagine a worse fate. He isn't attracted to women, and his chances of making a wife happy are slim. Enter James Harding, Christopher's new, distractingly handsome, if rigidly traditional valet. After a rocky start, the two start up a fragile friendship amid the throes of the London season, a friendship that threatens to shatter under the looming shadow of Christopher's impending nuptials and the secrets both men are keeping. This is going to be so much fun. Martha Walters, the author of To Love and to Loathe, said, "This is a beautiful and wonderfully queer romance that reminds us of all the many sorts of love stories this genre can encompass, and reading it felt like a gift." So again, perfect for people who love Bridgerton and are kind of searching for a little bit of a queer spin on it.
And next up is Spells, Strings, and Forgotten Things. But I don't think you will forget this book. You might recall Brienne Randall is an author who was on the Library Reads Pick list, thanks to all of you, in September 2023. The Unfortunate Side Effects of Heartbreak and Magic made its debut on the Library Reads list. Brienne Randall has a huge following, and I'm so excited to tell you about their next book. In this, a young witch is cursed with sacrificing memories to cast spells, and they must decide how much she's willing to lose to save her town in this thrilling tale of magic, love, and self-discovery. So it's a story of Calliope and her two sisters, and they carefully guard the secret of their magic and the price they must pay to practice it, memories. But luckily, all they want to do is forget. The mother who left without a trace, the sisters from whom she feels increasingly distant, and most of all, she wants to forget the way the love of her life shattered her heart 2 years ago. But when an ancient evil awakens, the fragile thread that holds the sisters together breaks. As their magic slowly begins to fade, Calliope accidentally binds herself to the handsome leader of a rival coven, infamous for their ruthless pursuit of power. Battling the sizzling chemistry with a man she cannot trust, Calliope must confront painful memories of her past, dark family secrets, and ancient magic in order to protect the town and all she loves. But will she have anything left of herself? This is the perfect follow-up in a similar style to her debut. This is a standalone fantasy, but it has strong crossover potential for romance and women's fiction audiences. It checks all the boxes. It's romantasy, but in the tradition of Charmed with the sisters, and the sizzling love story, and this just really poignant exploration of family and self-discovery. So it's got a lot of meat to it in this fun, magical setting, and it's also going to include some recipes in the back of the book. So ultimate coziness, and 3 out of 5 on the pepper scale is what I'm being told. You can read it and decide if you agree. And then finally on this fun slide, fake it like you mean it. So we all love the enemies to lovers storyline. I know I do. And this is a really unique take on that because it really grounds it in a sort of painful family story of someone who's dealing with a grandmother who has Alzheimer's, and it's progressing really quickly. And the last thing that this character Elle expects when she walks into her childhood home to visit her grandmother, who she loves dearly, the last thing she expects to find is Adam Wheeler in her bed in her childhood room. Adam Wheeler is from her childhood, and the grandmother decides that in her mind, she's convinced that Elle and Adam are madly in love. And so it's this really kind of funny, meet cute later in life kind of story. And Elle and Adam start playing along because the grandmother thinks they're in love. But the only snag is that in this case, she doesn't forget. She's not forgetting that she thinks that they are together. So Lovey's not the only person who thinks this fake dating scheme is real. So why is Elle fantasizing about Adam when he's not around? And why is it getting harder to pretend? So I just love that this is a real blend of romance, laugh out loud comedy, and these heartbreaking family moments in a really beautiful story. Like I said, it combines that like emotional family situation with a romance and this meet cute. And I think it'll be great for romance fans and for book clubs, fans of, I couldn't help but think of like Drew Barrymore's 50 First Dates. And I think it just really is a new take on the rom-com that we haven't read before. And we're so thrilled for you to check it out.
That one sounds so sweet, Jen.
It does sound. Oh, great. Well, now to get your heart racing in a very different way, I'll be kicking off our thrillers with Saltwater. From the New York Times bestselling author of The Cloisters comes an electrifying thriller about an opulent family retreat to Italy that's shattered by the resurfacing of a decade-old crime. In 1992, Sarah Lingate is found dead below the cliffs of Capri, leaving behind her 3-year-old daughter Helen. Despite suspicions that the old money Lingates are involved, Sarah's death is ruled an accident, and every year the family returns to prove it's true. But on the 30th anniversary of Sarah's death, the Lingates arrive at the villa to find a surprise waiting for them, the necklace that Sarah was wearing the night she died. Haunted by the specter of that night, the legendary Lingate family unity is pushed to a breaking point, and Helen seizes the opportunity. Enlisting the help of Lorna Moreno, a family assistant, the two plot their escape from Helen's paranoid insular family. But when Lorna disappears and the investigation into Sarah's death is reopened, Helen has to confront the fact that everyone who was on Capri 30 years ago remains a suspect. Her controlling father Richard, rarely lucid Aunt Naomi, distant Uncle Marcus, and their circle of friends, visitors, and staff. Even Lorna, her closest ally, may not be who she seems. As long-hidden secrets about that night boil to the surface, one thing becomes clear. Not everyone will leave the island alive. This is for readers of Riley Sager's The Only One Left, Sarah Pierce's The Sanatorium, and fans of twisty destination thrillers like The Guest List by Lucy Foley.
That one is so exciting. It's also going to be great for people who love The White Lotus.
Yes.
New season coming out soon. I love a transportive vacation-based thriller. All right, so next up, I have The Savage Noble Death of Babs Dion, which is by Ron Curry, who will also be at our festival on December 10th. So be sure to tune in and you can hear him speak more about this book. Excuse me. We're all having some throat issues today, it seems. So we follow Babs Dion, a proud Franco-American, doting grandmother and vicious crime matriarch who rules her small town of Waterville, Maine with an iron fist. She controls the flow of drugs into Little Canada with the help of her loyal lieutenants, girlfriends since they were teenagers, and her eldest daughter, Lori, a Marine vet struggling with addiction. When a drug kingpin discovers that his numbers are down in the upper Northeast, he sends a malevolent force, only known as the Man, to investigate. At the same time, Bab's youngest daughter, Sis, has gone missing, which doesn't seem at all like a coincidence. In 24 hours, Sis will be found dead, and the whole town will seek shelter from Babs's wrath. The savage, noble death of Babs Dion is a crime saga like no other, with a ferocious matriarch at its bruised, beating heart, with sharp wit and profound empathy. And award-winning author Ron Curry delivers us an unforgettable novel exploring love, retribution, and the ancestral roots that both nurture and trap us. This is big crime in a small town in the Northeast. It's going to be great for these winter months if you're looking for something to kind of keep you going. And we love a female-led crime family. It's going to be fabulous.
Okay, and now we're moving into some must-have historical fiction. We're going to kick things off with Harlem Rhapsody. She found the literary voices that would inspire the world. The extraordinary story of the woman who ignited the Harlem Renaissance, written by Victoria Christopher Murray, New York Times bestselling co-author of The Personal Librarian. In 1919, a high school teacher from Washington, D.C. arrives in Harlem, excited to realize her lifelong dream. Jessie Redmond Fawcett has been named the literary editor of The Crisis, the first Black woman to hold this position at a preeminent Negro magazine. Jessie is poised to achieve literary greatness, but she holds a secret that jeopardizes it all. W.E.B. Du Bois, the founder of The Crisis, is not only Jessie's boss, he's her lover, and neither his wife nor their 14-year age difference can keep the two apart. Amidst rumors of their tumultuous affair, Jessie is determined to prove herself. She attacks the challenge of discovering young writers with fervor, finding 16-year-old County Cullen, 17-year-old Langston Hughes, and Nella Larson, who becomes one of her best friends. Under Jessie's leadership, The Crisis thrives. Every African-American writer in the country wants their work published there. And when her first novel is released to great acclaim, it's clear that Jessie is at the heart of a renaissance in Black music, theater, and the arts. She has shaped a generation of literary legends, but as she strives to preserve her legacy, she'll discover the high cost of her unparalleled success. Harlem Rhapsody is perfect for readers and fans of Britt Bennett, Lisa Wingate, and Kristen Hanna.
All right, so next up I have Junie. So we follow Junie, who is 16 years old and has been enslaved on the Bellarine plantation in Alabama for her entire life. She spends her days cooking, cleaning, and tending to the master's daughter, Violet. But her daydreams are consumed with poetry, and she spends the nights secretly wandering through the forest, overcome with grief over the sudden death of her older sister, Minnie. When guests arrive at the plantation, hinting at their desire for Violet to be married, and Junie's life is absolutely upended. She commits a desperate act in this moment, which rouses Minnie's spirit from the grave, and she enlists the help of Caleb, the guest coachman, to help try and free Minnie's spirit from the mortal world. And in doing so, they begin to uncover the terrible secrets that Bellarine holds. With time ticking down, Junie begins to push against the harsh current that has controlled her entire life. She grapples with an increasingly unfamiliar world in which she has little control, and she is forced to ask herself, when do we choose love and liberation, and what must we leave behind?
And next up, we have One Good Thing by Georgia Hunter. So when author Georgia Hunter was 15 years old, she discovered that she came from a family of Holocaust survivors. Years later, she embarked on a journey of intensive research, determined to unearth and record her family's remarkable story. The result, as I'm sure you know, was the New York Times bestseller, We Were the Lucky Ones, which has now been published in over 20 languages, and it was adapted for television on Hulu as a highly acclaimed limited series. So I'm sure your patrons and you will very much be looking forward to her next book, One Good Thing. there's just such an audience, as we know, for World War II fiction. And this story, One Good Thing, is set in Italy, which is sometimes, you know, a more unexplored setting within this genre. The main characters, Lily and Esty, are horrified as they watch their beloved country fall to the Nazis. It takes place starting in 1940 with these two girls who have been best friends, and then it goes across time as the war is being fought and Italy's Mussolini's racial laws go into effect, and then Germany invades northern Italy, and these two friends who are Jewish find themselves in occupied territory. So this follows their story as Lily sets out on an epic journey to survive towards Allied territory through Nazi-occupied villages and bombed-out cities, and she's protecting along the way her dear friend Esty's son, Theo. It's a really touching and well-researched story, and it's just, you know, important to talk about these stories and to read about them. And what's really fascinating too is Georgia, the author's blog, really offers behind-the-scenes glimpses into her research process and the inside look at how she writes and how she has been interviewed by so many people about, you know, researching the Holocaust, and she's even been in documentaries. So she's really fascinating. She takes her research very seriously and also writes these incredible moving stories about humanity and about survival. And so we hope that you will check out One Good Thing.
Okay, and next up we have The Antidote. From Pulitzer finalist and MacArthur Fellowship recipient and, excuse me, best-selling author of Swamplandia, Karen Russell brings us a gripping Dust Bowl epic about 5 characters whose fates become entangled after a storm ravages their small Nebraskan town. The Antidote opens on Black Sunday as a historic dust storm ravages the fictional town of Uz, Nebraska, but Uz is already collapsing, not just under the weight of the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl drought, but beneath its own violent histories. The Antidote follows a prairie witch whose body serves as a bank vault for people's memories and secrets. Russell's novel is, above all, a reckoning with a nation's forgetting, enacting the settler amnesia and willful omissions passed down from generation to generation, and unearthing not only horrors, but shimmering possibilities. The Antidote echoes with urgent warnings for our own climate emergency, challenging readers with a vision of what might have been and what still could be. This is perfect for Karen Russell's many readers, for fans of masterful magical realism from writers like George Saunders and Kelly Link.
And finally on this slide, Barbara by Joni Murphy. This is the perfect novel to follow the year of Barbenheimer that we had last year. This is for readers of feminist fiction and also for fans of Oppenheimer or even of Wes Anderson's Asteroid City. This is such a fascinating historical fiction story that I feel like I haven't read before. It's a novel that tracks the life cycle of a silver screen starlet rising against the backdrop of the mid-20th century. So Barbara, our title character, is born shortly before World War II and lives through the conflict as a desert child, trailing her father, who's an engineer in the famed and infamous Manhattan Project. And when Barbara is 13, her beautiful, sensitive mother commits suicide. From that point on, these twin poles, the historic and the personal, the political and the violently intimate, vie for control of Barbara's consciousness. So she grows up and she becomes a successful actress, and she travels the world between film sets and love affairs, and she takes on and sheds various roles. And she marries and she divorces, and she has all of these turbulent, interesting relationships. And this book becomes a really deep character study of a woman who's losing hold and recapturing her identity through the art and technology of movie making, but of course set against this backdrop of this interesting history of her parents, and taking you through this really just pivotal time. And so it's just a really fascinating book. It feeds that nostalgia, as I mentioned, for people who loved Oppenheimer and the scrutiny of post-war America, and it has a much needed feminist bent to it as well. So it's just very evocative as a period piece, and it focuses on gender inequality in our history and sheds light on our present. And we just think this is going to be a really amazing breakout novel that will give such fascinating discussions in book clubs and in libraries everywhere. And we hope you check it out.
Yeah, sounds like it's going to be great for fans of Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo as well, with a little bit more of that historical bend to it. That sounds fabulous. All right, so first up, I have, we have some unforgettable reimaginings on this slide. So first up, I have Blackwood's Blue Sky by Pulitzer Prize finalist and New York Times bestselling author of The Snow Child, You and Ivy. So You and Ivy in this book returns to the mythical landscapes of Alaska with an unforgettable dark fairy tale that asks the question, can love save us from ourselves? So we follow Birdie, who's a single mother in Alaska, who's just doing her best to keep it together. Sometimes she's a little hungover, sometimes she has to bring her daughter Emmeline to work, but she's making it all happen for herself. That is until one day Emmeline gets lost in the woods and is brought home by a soft-spoken recluse, Arthur. Birdie quickly falls for Arthur and his isolated lifestyle, and her and Emmeline move in with him in a totally isolated cabin. They fish for salmon, they forage for berries, they live kind of this magical, singular life out there. But soon, Birdie discovers that Arthur is something much more mysterious and dangerous than she could have ever imagined, and that the Alaska wilderness, like the Alaska wilderness, a fairy tale can be as dark as it is beautiful. This is going to be a really stunning look at the Alaskan landscape. I recently read The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna, and this feels like it's going to be a really cool fairy tale twist on one of those stories, you know, mother-daughter relationships out in the wilderness. It's going to be absolutely beautiful. You and Ivy is fantastic. So we're really looking forward to this one.
And up next on this slide, Fagin the Thief by Alison Epstein. I know all the books that we're presenting leave you saying, please, sir, I want some more. I couldn't resist, guys. I had to do a quote from Oliver. Okay, so Fagin the Thief is a thrilling reimagining of the world of Charles Dickens as seen through the eyes of the infamous Jacob Fagin, of course, London's most gifted pickpocket, liar, and rogue. And you might have heard Alison speak at the recent Library Journal Day of Dialogue. If not, you can still duck back into that landscape and listen to her panel. But what's so interesting about this is that author Epstein follows Jacob from childhood past the events of Oliver Twist and shows the full arc of his life and choices over the decades, as well as a changing London. So not only is this calling all Oliver fans and the camp and fun of musical theater lovers to the page, hello, sign me up, but but also it's just such a fascinating historical fiction read, and then also really dives into this character study of a character who is one of literature's most notorious villains, and now we have a whole new unforgettable adventure about this character. So you get to explore 19th century London and meet Jacob as a child, and just explore. I love this take, and we've seen this a lot recently, I think, in books from James to all these other fantastic reimaginings of like, what would you do if you had the opportunity to take a character that we all know so well and breathe new life into it? And Alison Epstein does just that, and it's colorfully written, it's wickedly funny, and it'll be a great book club pick as well to just discuss her take on this infamous character.
Okay, and next up we have some extraordinary new nonfiction for everyone, starting with Source Code. The origin story of one of the most influential and transformative business leaders and philanthropists of the modern age. The business triumphs of Bill Gates are widely known. The 20-year-old who dropped out of Harvard to start a software company that became an industry giant and changed the way the world works and lives. The billionaire many times over who turned his attention to philanthropic pursuits to address climate change, global health, and U.S. education. Source Code is not about the heyday of Microsoft or the creation of the Gates Foundation or the future of technology. It's the human, personal story of how Bill Gates became who he is today. His childhood, his early passions and pursuits. It's the story of his principled grandmother and ambitious parents, his first deep friendships and the sudden death of his best friend, of his struggles to fit in and his discovery of a world of coding and computers in the dawn of a new era, and of sparking a revolution that would change the world. Bill Gates tells his own story, for the first time. Wise, warm, revealing, it's a fascinating portrait of an American life, perfect for Mr. Gates' many millions of fans and followers, and readers interested in stories about tech and innovation.
Of course, we're presenting this book the day that I had technical difficulties. I mean, I have some questions. Help me out.
Oh my gosh, if only. Okay. And so next up we have Original Sins. Why don't our schools work? Original Sins tackles this question from a new angle. What if they're actually doing what they're built to do? Arguing that instead of being the great equalizer, America's classrooms were designed to do the opposite, to maintain our inequalities. It's a task at which they excel. If all children could just get an education, the logic goes, they would have the same opportunities later in life. But this historical tour de force makes it clear that the opposite is true. The educational system has played an instrumental role in creating racial hierarchies, preparing children to expect unequal treatment throughout their lives. By demonstrating that it's in the DNA of American schools to serve as an effective and under-acknowledged mechanism maintaining inequality in this country today, Original Sins makes the case that there should be a profound reevaluation of what schools are supposed to do and for whom. This book will change the way people understand the place they send their children for 8 hours a day. This is for readers of books that seek to understand American racism through the lens of American institutions, such as Richard Rothstein's The Color of Law and Michelle Alexander's The New Jim Crow.
And finally, on the extraordinary nonfiction slide, How to Love Better, The Path to Deeper Connection Through Growth, Kindness, and Compassion. And this is, of course, from the #1 New York Times bestselling author of Lighter. And in this book, our author offers a blueprint for deepening our compassion, kindness, and gratitude so you can truly grow in harmony with another person and build stronger connections in all of your relationships. So as we know, love enters our lives in many forms, friends, family, and intimate partners, but all of these relationships are defined by the love we have for ourselves. And so this is a great reminder on how to be fully present in our healing and to learn to love each other better. And in what feels like divisive times, I can think of no better book for all of our lists. You know, of course, Pueblo is a spiritual leader, and many fans look to him for guidance on self-healing and how to create healthy relationships. And so we're so thrilled that he's back on our list. And I think this will speak to a lot of people. And we hope you check it out. Oh, and I'm next. I leave it up to you. So we're switching gears again to provocative stories about love and family. And we're so thrilled that Jin Woo Chong is appearing at the festival as well, that we keep talking about on December 10th. So join us there. I Leave It Up to You is, of course, by the author of Flux. And this is so, I just love stories like this that are like offbeat family stories that have humor and heart for fans of like Kevin Wilson and Emma Straub, and just about complicated relationships. And this also tackles Asian American identity and has these just tender love stories that I think stick with you for a really long time. So this one is a novel about love, family, and the art of sushi that asks, what if you could return to the point of a fateful choice, wiser than before, and find the courage to forge a new path? So a coma can change a man, but the world of Jack Jr., the world Jack Jr. awakens to is one he barely recognizes. His advertising job is history, his Manhattan apartment is gone, and the love of his life has left him behind. He's been asleep for 2 years. With no one to turn to, he realizes it's been 10 years since he last saw his family. So we meet this character. He's lost and disoriented. He makes a reluctant homecoming back to the bustling Korean-American enclave of Fort Lee, New Jersey, back to his parents, who are operating under the illusion that he never left. And also he joins again their ever struggling sushi restaurant that he was set to inherit before he ran away from it all. So he's stepping back into this abandoned life, and he's embracing new roles. And one of those roles is the romantic interest to the male nurse who took care of him throughout the the stage of his life. This is just a wonderful story about like, why do we run from those we love? Why do we still love those who run from us? So it's really poignant and entertaining. It's about second chances, which I love, and self-discovery, and it really navigates love, loss, and the absurdity of finding one's footing after the ground gives way.
Amazing. And so up next, I have Goddess Complex. In Goddess Complex, we follow Sanjana, who is trying to recover her life. It's been a year since she walked out on her husband, a struggling actor named Killian, at a commune in India after a disagreement about whether to have children. Now, Sanjana is struggling to resurrect her busted anthropology dissertation and crashing at her annoyingly perfect sister's place. Sanjana needs to move forward and finalize her divorce as soon as possible. But there's just one problem. Killian is missing. As Sanjana tries to track him down, she's bombarded with unnerving calls from women seeking her advice on pregnancy and fertility. Soon, Sanjana comes face to face, literally, with what her life might have been like if she'd chosen parenthood. And the road not taken turns out to be wilder, stranger, and more tempting than she imagined. This is a darkly funny novel about the dilemmas of procreation, pregnancy, and parenting. It's a twist-filled psychological thriller and a feminist satire at the same time. It looks at the idea of girl bosses turned self-care influencers, optimization cults, internet mommy gurus, and so much more. And then next, to shift gears a little bit, we have Counting Backwards. So we follow Leo, a scientist, and Addie, a collage artist. It begins with hallucinations. From their living room window, Leo sees a man on stilts, an acting troupe, a pair of swans paddling on the street. Then he starts to experience occasional but fleeting oddities that mimic myriad brain disorders, aphasia, the inability to perform simple tasks, and things like that. Leo and Addie had a loving marriage, but as his periods of lucidity become rarer, Addie finds herself less and less able to cope. Eventually, Leo is diagnosed with Lewy body disease. He moves first into an assisted living facility and then to a small apartment with a caretaker, where over time he descends into full cognitive decline. Addie's agony, anger, and guilt result in self-imposed isolation, which mirror Leo's diminished life. And so for years, all she can do is watch him die, too soon and yet not soon enough. Benny Kirschenbaum's book captures the couple's final years, months, and days in short scenes that burn with despair, humor, and rage, tracking the brutal destruction of the disease as well as the moments of love and beauty that still exist for them amid the larger tides of loss.
Okay, and finally on this slide, we have Lucky Night. So, they're married to other people, but tonight, after 6 years of casual sex, a couple is trapped in a hotel room. As a fire rages below them, they're forced to confront the lies they've told their spouses, each other, and themselves in this edge-of-your-seat, witty, sharply observed novel. When Nick books a night for himself and Jenny at a fancy new hotel in Manhattan, the two decide to break one of their rules and spend the whole night together. It's business as usual until a fire alarm goes off. At first they think it's a false alarm, but by the time they decide to leave, it's too late. And as the fire climbs, the heat rises not just outside their room, but inside as well. Emotions run hot as fear strips away their defenses and justifications, forcing Jenny and Nick to be honest with each other and with themselves about how they ended up in this room and what these 6 years have really meant. Eliza Kennedy has written a novel that masterfully explores marriage, infidelity, and love, a meditation on whether it's possible to live an authentic life and whether we can ever show our true selves. This is perfect for readers who love stories about complicated relationships, from authors like Sally Rooney's Normal People and Lauren Groff's Fates and Furies.
All right, so next up we have dreamy new fiction, and our first author on this slide needs no introduction. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie is back with a new novel, 10 Years in the Making, which tells the story of 4 women and their loves, longings, and desires. So first we have Chiamaka, who is a Nigerian travel writer living in America. Alone in the midst of the pandemic, she recalls her past lovers and grapples with her choices and regrets. Zecora, her best friend, is a lawyer who has been successful at everything until, betrayed and brokenhearted, she must turn to the person she thought she needed least. Omegalore, Chimaka's bold, outspoken cousin, is a financial powerhouse in Nigeria who begins to question how well she knows himself. And Kadiatu, Chiamaka's housekeeper, is proudly raising her daughter in America, but faces an unthinkable hardship that threatens all that she has worked to achieve. In Dream Count, Adichie trains her eye on these women in a sparkling, transcendent novel that takes up the very nature of love itself. Is true happiness ever attainable, or is it just a fleeting state? And how honest must we be with ourselves in order to love and to be loved? It's a reflection on the choices we make and those made for us, on mothers and daughters, and on our interconnected world. Dream Count pulses with emotional urgency and poignant, unflinching observations of the human heart and language that soars with beauty and power.
Wow, that's so exciting to have new from her. Wow.
Excited.
And finally, we have The Dream Hotel. From Layla Leilami, the Pulitzer Prize and National Book Award finalist, comes a riveting and utterly original novel about one woman's fight for freedom, set in a near future where even dreams are under surveillance. Sarah has just landed at LAX, returning home from a conference abroad, when agents from the Risk Assessment Administration pull her aside and inform her that she will soon commit a crime. Using data from her dreams, the RAA's algorithm has determined that she is at imminent risk of harming the person she loves most, her husband. For his safety, she must be kept under observation for 21 days. The agents transfer Sarah to a retention center where she is held with other dreamers, all of them women trying to prove their innocence from different crimes. With every deviation from the strict and ever-shifting rules of the facility, their stay is extended. Months pass and Sarah seems no closer to release. Then one day, a new resident arrives, disrupting the order of the facility and leading Sarah on a collision course with the very companies that have deprived her of her freedom. Eerie, urgent, and ceaselessly clear-eyed, the Dream Hotel artfully explores the seductive nature of technology, which puts us in shackles even as it makes our lives easier. Perfect for fans of Our Missing Hearts by Celeste Ng and The Candy House by Jennifer Egan. And yes, definitely this sounds like a scary plot.
All right, and last up, we just have a couple best-selling fiction writers returning with new publications. None of these authors need an introduction to any of you. We have Jojo Moyes, Ann Tyler, Curtis Sittenfeld, Chris Bojalian, and more on this list. But we just wanted to show you some of their upcoming titles, so you can all be on the lookout and be ready to request these on NetGalley or Edelweiss, or be ready to buy when they're finally available.
And we think you'll be seeing a lot of those covers. And then finally, we're almost out of time, but who's in the mood for chocolate cake? I wish I had that as a prop right now. These are 2 audio originals. This means you can only find these titles on audio to listen to from Books on Tape, and we are so thrilled to share them with you. First up is Smitten Kitchen Keepers from Deb Perlman, who is, of course, the best-selling cookbook author and one of the most successful food bloggers. And she takes listeners through her favorite recipes from her 3rd book, Smitten Kitchen Keepers, but in this special audio edition. And I have to be honest, my favorite time, I think, like listening is when it's like really late at night, everyone's sleeping, and I put on my really good headphones and I listen to audiobooks, and I get so much done in the kitchen. And I feel like it's just such a calming way for me to listen and also feel accomplished. And I love this combination truly of how to be inspired in the kitchen, but through listening. And so this will tackle everything from what makes a truly perfect recipe for spaghetti and meatballs. Is there an ultimate devil's food cake? And what makes a recipe worthy of your forever files? And so it really will feel like Deb Perlman is in the kitchen with you. You'll hear her thoughts on those questions and more. And she's going to chat about 44 fail-safe, satisfying recipes that you'll rely on for years to come. And you will also get a bonus PDF of ingredients and instructions so you can try the recipes for yourself. So I hope if you haven't already discovered the joy of listening in the kitchen, that this will spur you to try it, and also encourage all your patrons to as well. And then also something that I think will give you some perhaps different kind of energy in the kitchen, but also maybe get you cleaning those counters or whatever you need to get done. Liv Constantine's Everybody is a Liar is a full cast narrated audio original. It is, of course, from the best-selling author of The Next Mrs. Parrish, and this is a spellbinding story of betrayal and deceit. When Julie Buckley, a successful mystery writer, I love when stories combine the bookish and the writers within the story itself. When Julie suspects her husband of cheating, she turns to her best friend Darby for advice. When Darby suggests couples therapy, Julie and Oliver find themselves discussing Oliver's betrayal with their new therapist, Liza. Liza is competent and reassuring, and her advice and Oliver's openness to change seem to be helping the couple to rebuild their relationship. But when murder strikes in this small Connecticut town, Liza begins to worry there's a connection between Oliver and another one of her patients, and the confidences they have shared with her become the key to solving the murder. And as she digs deeper, she comes to believe that everybody is a liar. So we leave you with that. Thank you so much for joining us on our season finale. We will be back in January 2025. So happy.
So excited to see you all then. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you got some great new books out of this and such a great hour per usual.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you next year.